Hi guys, welcome to another audio video in the reading Acts 27 of the King James Version Bible. And it reads, "And when it was determined that we should sail into Italy, they delivered Paul and certain other prisoners unto one named Julius, a centurion of Augustus's band, and entering into a ship of Adramyttium, where we launched, meaning to sail by the coast of Asia, one Aristarchus, a Macedonian of Thessalonica, being with us. And the next day we touched at Sidon, and Julius courteously entreated Paul, and gave him liberty to go unto his friends to refresh himself. And when we had launched from thence, we sailed unto Cyprus, because the winds were contrary. And when we had sailed over the sea of Cilicia and Pamphylia, we came to Myra, a city of Lycia. And there the centurion found a ship of Alexandria sailing into Italy, and he put us therein. And when we had sailed slowly many days, and scarce were come over against Cnidus, and the wind was suffering us, we sailed under Crete over against Salmon, and hardly passing it, came unto a place which is called the Fair Heavens, nigh whereunto was the city of Lasea. Now, when much time was spent, and when sailing was now dangerous, because the fast was now already past, Paul admonished them, and said unto them, Sirs, I perceive that this voyage will be with hurt and much damage, not only of the lading and ship, but also of our lives. Nevertheless, the centurion believed the master and the owner of the ship more than those things which were spoken by Paul. And because the haven was not commodious to winter in, the more part advised to depart thence also, if by any means they might attain to Phinis, and there to winter, which is an haven of Crete, and lieth toward the southwest and northwest. And when the south wind blew softly, supposing that they had obtained their purpose, loosening thence, they sailed close by Crete. But not long after there arose against it a tempestuous wind called Heraclidon. And when the ship was caught and could not bear up into the wind, we let her drive. And running under a certain highland, which is called Clauda, we had much work to come by the boat, which when they had taken up, they used the helps undergirding the ship, and fearing lest they should fall into the quicksands, strake sail, and so were driven. And we, being exceedingly tossed with the tempest, the next day they lightened the ship, and the third day we cast out with our own hands the tackling of the ship. And when neither sun nor stars in many days appeared, and no small tempest lay on us, all hope that we should be saved was then taken away. But after long abstinence, Paul stood forth in the midst of them and said, Sirs, ye should have hearkened unto me, and not have loosed from Crete, and to have gained this harm and loss. And now I exhort you to be of good cheer, for there shall be no loss of any man's life among you, but of the ship. For there stood by me this night the angel of God, whose I am and whom I serve, saying, Fear not, Paul, thou must be brought before Caesar, and lo, God hath given thee all them that sail with thee. Wherefore, sirs, be of good cheer, for I believe God, that it shall be even as it was told me. Howbeit, we must be cast upon a certain island. And when the 14th night was come, as we were driven up and down in Adria about midnight, the shipmen deemed that they drew near to some country, and sounded and found it 20 fathoms. And when they had gone a little further, they sounded again and found it 15 fathoms. Then, fearing lest we should have fallen upon rocks, they cast 4 anchors out of the stern and wished for the day. And as the shipmen were about to flee out of the ship, when they had let down the boat into the sea, under color as though they would have cast anchors out of the foreship, Paul said to the centurion and to the soldier, except these abide in the ship, ye cannot be saved. Then the soldiers cut off the ropes of the boat and let her fall off. And while the day was come on, Paul besought them all to take meat, saying, This day is the 14th day that ye have tarried and continued fasting, having taken nothing. Wherefore I pray you to take some meat, for this is for your health. For there shall not an hair fall from the head of any of you. And when he had thus spoken, he took bread and gave thanks to God in presence of them all. And when he had broken it, he began to eat. Then were they all of good cheer, and they also took some meat. And we were in all in the ship 260 souls. And when they had eaten enough, they lightened the ship, and cast out the wheat into the sea. And when it was day, they knew not the land, but they discovered a certain creek with a shore, into the which they were minded, if it were possible, to thrust in the ship. And when they had taken up the anchors, they committed themselves unto the sea, and loosed the rubber bands, and hoised up the mainsail of the wind, and hoist up the mainsail of the wind, and made toward shore. And falling into a place where 2 seas met, they ran the ship aground, and the forepart struck fast and remained unmovable, but the hinder part was broken with the violence of the waves. And the soldiers' counsel was to kill the prisoners, lest any of them should swim out and escape. But the centurion, willing to save Paul, kept them from their purpose, and commanded that they which could swim should cast themselves first into the sea and get to land, and the rest, some on boards and some on broken pieces of the ship. And so it came to pass that they escaped all safe to land. Alright guys, so in this chapter we see where Paul was subjected to a travel over the seas in order to gain the audience of Caesar, as was said by King Agrippa and Festus, agreed on by them. And here we see where Paul had told them that they should not take the journey. And it didn't say that the Lord told him not that they weren't supposed to take the journey, but we all know that that's what took place, right? Because the Lord speaks to his people, especially when you have a close relationship with him. And so he told them not to leave Crete, but they did not adhere to that. They followed the expertise of the shipmen, and that's where their fault was. And they soon came to realize this. Well, they did not realize it, but he brought it to their attention nevertheless. Right? And what I learned from this is that whenever the Lord directs us, we should not trust on the expertise of others. When God says something and God tells us something, then we should not actually believe in the expertise of others or wait for confirmation from others based on the fact that it's their area of expertise. But if God says something, it is so. I mean, He's the maker of heaven and earth. He knows everything. There's nothing new to Him. And we all like to say there's nothing new under the heavens. Well, I'm telling you that that's not entirely true, because almost every day I learn something new. And I'm sure many can attest to that fact also. If not every day, frequently, just the same, right? And so God knows everything. There's nothing new to Him. He's the only one that nothing is new to, right? And if He tells us something, then He knows why He told us that. And we need not question it. We just need to believe, right? He's the expert in all things. So He's the one we should follow, right? His guidance is the one we need. All right, guys, so I'm going to leave that right there. Please remember to continue to walk in your salvation. And if you've not gained it, then seek it. There's no better time to begin than the present. Have yourselves a blessed day. Bye.